Hello, my name's James Clarke, leader of the Renew Party, and today we will be starting a new series where we're talking to small businesses and people who are affected by our new trade relationship with Europe. So today we'll be speaking to Pete Rope. Hi, Pete.
Hi, James. Hello.
And let's kick off. Perhaps you could just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm a small business owner based in Kent. So we run a business called Junko, which makes eco-friendly toys. Things like this, kits that help kids turn junk into working toys. And we manufacture in the EU, and we use recycled plastics, packaged plastic free. So we're kind of and it's quite an innovative product. So we've won European Design Awards, and we're all, recommended by all these different places. And we're just a young business. So we've been trading for about 2.5 years now. And we're just starting the last year and a half to export to Europe. So yeah, that's really why we're talking, isn't it? Because things have changed somewhat with Brexit, and it's presented us, I think, as a lot of us feared. We've left the club, and the deal isn't as good now. And for UK small businesses like us, it's just harder to compete in Europe. We're no longer competitive. There's quite a few barriers to trade, which we really didn't want.
Okay, so you started the business after the referendum vote.
When was the referendum vote? I cannot remember now.
2016?
Yes, we started trading after then. Yeah. So we tried really hard to manufacture in the UK because that's what we wanted to do. And that's what we did for our first batch of toys. So we didn't think, we didn't know what was going to happen, did we? No one knew. But the reality is we can't make our toys competitively in the UK. It's too expensive. We require hand finishing, and you just can't do that with UK companies because the minimum wage in the UK and the cost of living, it's double Poland, for instance, where we manufacture.
Okay, so when you embarked on this venture, did you anticipate that there might be trouble down the road? Were you able to factor anything in? What thoughts did you have on that leading up to 2021?
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to anticipate. I was still hoping we'd get a second referendum, and I was convinced we would. Maybe it turns out that was wishful thinking, wasn't it? But I thought the first vote was so messy and there's so many lies on every which side, but I thought they must have a second referendum to confirm all this. So that's what I was hoping for. When we moved manufacturing to the EU, we didn't really have a choice, to be honest. I didn't want to manufacture in China because environmentally for us that's a bad shout. It's important to us to use a family factory that treat their staff well. We've got quite a lot. We're a brand with some ideals which we need to stick to because that's the foundation of our brand is we make a great toy, but we make it responsibly and sustainably. So it was a gamble to move it to the EU, but I had no choice fiscally. We can't. Our margins are small anyway because we use recycled materials, and our whole responsible ethos does cost more. So we have to try and remain competitive, remotely competitive, and our margins don't allow us to make it in the UK. It's as simple as that.
Okay. And there's been government campaigns aimed at small businesses such as yours. Get ready for Brexit. There may be this. You may need to prepare papers. For someone like you, how useful was that? Did you have useful input from the government on the specifics of how to prepare for this?
I think the battle we had was there were lots of things that might happen, and the deal happened so late that no one really knew what we should be preparing for or how to prepare. We knew we'd have to register for that. We sell a lot on Amazon, and now we can no longer sell on Amazon in Europe unless we register for that. in a EU country, So we started that process then. Everything else was just a bit up in the air. We didn't fully understand it. For us, it was happening before Christmas, which is our crazy busy time. And we're a small company. We haven't got time to spend hours. I mean, I've wasted 3 or 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks on Brexit stuff. I've got a call with an EU SME advisor from the DIT on Monday to try and work some stuff out. But yeah, I mean, it was so unknown and the deal was so late that it was very hard for anyone to get prepared. Yeah, so we were marginally prepared.
Okay, so for people out there listening, could you give an idea of the actual nuts and bolts of how you would sell a Junko toy into a European country before now?
Yeah.
And how it has to be done or cannot be done today? Yeah.
Well, I mean, exporting to the EU, theoretically, what Michael Gove was saying, rather patronisingly, was that exporting to the EU would be like exporting to the rest of the world. It's good training for UK businesses. They'll be match fit, which is ridiculous. We all know how to export. The trouble with the EU is, originally with the EU, we could literally, it was like selling for UK. I could pack a parcel up, put a sticker on it, address sticker, book it, off it goes. 2 days later, it's there. It was as easy as that. The UK businesses had a real competitive advantage in Europe. You didn't charge VAT because there was the VAT agreement. So we would send a parcel off, and if it was a 200 quid parcel, they paid 200 quid and didn't pay VAT. That's all changed now. We have to send the same customs documentation as we would to send to the USA, for instance. But we have the added complication that our buyers in the UK, in the USA, they don't pay an import tax or duty or anything. It just goes straight through. In the EU now, when it gets to the foreign border, the company receiving the goods, so this is really us selling to retailers, small retailers generally we sell to, company receiving those goods has to pay a VAT bill up front. Now, for instance, we use DPD for a small parcel. The customs documentation was, I think, correct. It was a trial order from the customer, so it's a trivial amount of money, as a £70 order, and they got fees of €96 from DPD on that parcel. Now, I think that's a mistake, and we're trying to get them to send it back, and we'll try a different courier. However, the fact is, even if it was right and it got through like it should, they'd be paying VAT up front, which is bad for their cash flow. Not all small retailers are VAT registered either. And also they'll have to pay a management fee. So that's typically about, €10 or something. But those things are dissuasive to retailers. They're not going to buy UK products anymore because it's too much of a pain. It's too expensive. We had an advantage and we've traded that for a disadvantage. And that was not what was promised. And that's not what we need from this deal. We really need to effectively have a customs union still. They probably can't call it that because that won't fly. But we need to be able to get goods to the EU without customs barriers. Otherwise, it's just pointless. I mean, and this is so complicated as well because we manufacture in the EU. There are now extra costs basically you can only take goods over the border once to avoid tariffs. So if we made our entire product packaged in the EU, brought it back to the UK and then sold it to the EU again, we'd have to pay a tariff. We have to apply a big enough substantial transformation to the goods before we send them back in order not to get hit with tariffs. So the deal is really fiddly like that. You're doing 3-hour seminars or 1.5 hour seminars on this stuff, trying to understand it all. I think we have because our components are made in EU, but our packaging is made over here, and we sort components and speckle them a bit here. I think we've got enough transformation that we can actually get away with it. But it's a bit of a question mark. It's a definite grey area. So the complexities of this deal they're horrible for small business. I'm wasting so much time I should be spending on marketing, just trying to get back to a base trading level that we had before. And the fact is that the material of the deal is not good enough. It's not workable for a small business. I'm fairly sure that Nissan or whoever who are doing just-in-time manufacturing have got streamlined customs procedures. They're a massive company and the government probably made an allowance for them. But for the small guy, absolute nightmare.
Yeah. So when this arrangement was sold to us, there was a lot of talk of global Britain, and we can get rid of the shackles of the European Union and start selling to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
This always struck me as a suspect argument. If you were to follow that advice and say, okay, now I'm free to sell to Asia, South America, Africa, is that realistic? And if so, how would you even begin to go about it?
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem. The EU was always, and obviously I think it's the biggest market in the world, isn't it, for UK business, biggest single market. And it was always a great place to start exporting because there were no barriers. So you had however many billions of people it is, you could just access them straight away. So that was where you could start exporting with no overheads, very few overheads, very simple. Now they're saying, well, I had another DIT advisor was talking to a friend of mine. He said there are new markets opening up. And my friend is quite grizzled and old and miserable. And he just said, well, where are these new markets? Have they opened up North Korea? And it's the guy's saying Asia. He said, well, they existed anyway. The fact is we can't afford to trade in those markets yet because small businesses need to build up to it. You can't just switch on trading in another market. You've got marketing, you've got all the other arrangements you've got to make to open up a new market. What you typically do is focus on one country. So we're focused on Germany at the moment because ours is an eco-friendly toy and there's a big movement over there. And you focus on that market and you spend your money there. That was easy before because we didn't have to work anything out. Now we've got to register for German VAT and all this stuff and all the things I've just mentioned. It's not viable. You can't just, a big business can probably open up new markets. We can't. We relied on small British business to trade in the EU like we could within the UK. Our only barrier is language barrier on instructions or whatever. But
understood. So you're a small business. You're a family business. But I believe you've been featured on TV. You're growing. You've had some success. Would you say that you're typical of an SME in the UK, or how would you estimate how many thousands of people might be affected in a comparable way to the way that you've been affected?
I can't begin to imagine. I don't know. I mean, SMEs are responsible for about half of our GDP, aren't they? I believe. So I don't know how other companies are affected, but anyone who exports small quantities like we do, by business standards, big for us as a little family business, but small by big business standards, are going to be affected. There's no way they're not. My other friend who's is a toy manufacturer too, they're actually talking to a company in Belgium to set up over there. The only solution they can think is to set up another company in the EU because trading between the two borders is just too expensive now. So he's thinking of setting up the company. Little companies, we can't just set up in the EU a separate entity. That's going to cost us more than all the other stuff we're having to do. And there's other complexities too, which don't get talked about. We have a CE mark on our packaging, which you have to carry, which shows that we adhere to European safety standards. So that's fine, brilliant. We've all lab tested, everything's been certified. But in what we're doing now is we now, after I think it's July, have to have a CE mark authorised representative in the EU. I'm trying to find someone to do that at the moment, but of course the government haven't supported us, and this is not publicised at all. And that's going to cost £1 or £2 minimum. It's just another cost, and then also we're going to have to add the UK equivalent of a CE mark as from this time next year, and we've got 5,000 package of each range upstairs, stored in our warehousey house garage everywhere. So we have to sticker every single one of those with the new mark. We've got to sticker everything with the EU authorised representative as well. So it's just barrier after barrier after barrier. and cost after cost.
I know you've been in touch with your MP.
Yeah,
you want to tell me a little bit about when you contact your MP?
Yeah.
What sort of interaction do you have?
Well, I was quite vocal over Brexit, so she probably doesn't like me very much because I was worried this would happen because I couldn't see how leaving the club was going to be good for us, and it hasn't. So I've sent her a letter detailing all these points because I think these deals are all about the specifics for small businesses. It's the magic wand waving saying it's free trade is not helpful for us. It's the specifics, the administrative and financial burdens to small business, which don't get talked about enough. So I've sent her an email of all the specifics. I'm sure I'll get a fairly placating one back saying it'll all get better. I mean, I think the situation with, our transport costs have gone up too, obviously because of the customs VAT. So bringing goods in, our components in from the EU is more expensive. Sending stuff to the EU is more expensive. I'm hoping that will come down a bit over time as the courier companies acclimatise. But the trouble is the damage is kind of being done now. And I imagine I'll get a reply saying, thanks, Mr. Rope. I've passed it on. Don't worry, it'll get better. And I think the trouble is the damage is being done now, and small businesses, we've got COVID-19 as well, it's on top of all this. So small businesses are struggling anyway. And I'm also worried the government could blame all this on COVID as well. It's all going to be COVID's fault. And it's not. It's fundamentally a deal which hasn't been worked out. The government haven't thought about the impact of small business, and they clearly don't know how we have to operate. So
okay. So at Renew, we're all about talking to people and finding solutions. So in terms of trade or political arrangements or new ways of interacting with Europe, what do you think would be a political solution to the problems that you're finding with this increase in friction of trade, which we know was not what was promised? What sort of solution could you envisage if you were able to speak to the Prime Minister directly about this?
There's a tricky one because, as far as the government are concerned, it's that they seem to think that trading with the rest of the world is okay, and if the EU matches that, that's okay. The fact is, it's actually slightly harder. The only thing that would help us would be EU companies not paying VAT on imports, and that has to be a two-way deal. Obviously, we have to do the same at our side, and that way we get over the customs charges and the management fees for the customs charges and the delays of getting packages open. So that would be the single simplest thing that would sort that out. We've still got problems of authorised representatives and being registered with VAT in other countries and stuff, but yeah, that's what we need. And until we get that, I don't think we will, personally. I think we're stuck with this. We're just not going to be as competitive. EU companies will buy from other EU companies because it's easier and cheaper and faster. So I don't understand why the government thought this was going to be okay. I think they just committed to get Brexit done, didn't they? And the fact is, it was never, ever going to be as good a deal if we left the club. And it isn't. I can't honestly see a way out of this apart from setting up an EU. And I've heard that's what the DIT are recommending to people is if you're struggling, you've got to set up a subsidiary in the EU, which is costly and expensive, and most of us can't afford to do that.
Okay. Boris Johnson famously claimed that as a hobby, he liked to turn wine crates into double-decker buses. Do you have any plans to collaborate with the PM on recycled toys?
No, I'm not planning to collaborate with the PM on anything. I'd hate to see a double-decker bus made by Boris. I think we just want the government to listen and accept that no amount of showboating and they're trying to get UK business to stand up and say the successes. the DOT want to celebrate export success. And what they're going to do is showcase successes in the USA and successes in Asia and everything like that. And they're going to fudge over the fact that our EU trade is going to die, is dying. So, yeah, I have no hopes whatsoever of making anything with Boris or him making anything better for us. I'm not sure they can. I was really disappointed when they refused the EU ambassador diplomatic status, full diplomatic status. I thought all this talk of trying to be friends with the EU, trying to be it's a new beginning, and it's just not. It's just not. We were still being childish and point scoring. I just wish they'd just drop the posturing, start talking frankly, start listening to us, and say to the EU, this is damaging UK business, because we know it's damaging EU business too. We've got EU exporters stopping to export to UK because of the same problems going the other way. So, trade is what makes everything tick. And, the fact that we've lost our easy export market now, the export market, which didn't feel like exporting, is just awful. It's so detrimental to business. Now we can, I don't know what we do now. There's no real answer. We're less competitive. We can no longer sell to small retailers. The only people who can succeed are going to be large retailers who've got mechanisms to deal with this, cash flow. Paying for VAT up front for small businesses is a cash flow problem. It's a problem for us paying for VAT up front on the components that we import from Poland. So, the compound effects, all these little details, it's all these little details that add up to make it problematic and time consuming. So, what do you do? Okay.
Well, Pete, thanks for talking with us today. I hope your business can continue to grow in spite of the obstacles, the bottlenecks and friction that you're experiencing now as a result of a new trade deal. And we will continue to talk to people like you. As I say, this is the first of a series of interviews. So best of luck, and thanks for talking with us today.
Oh, thank you, James. Thanks for your time, and keep up the good work. Hopefully you can sort this thing out for us.